Welcome. Today I'm going to be unboxing Everdell bellfaire. I just got this today. It was actually unexpected. I had planned to buy Pearlbrook before getting this, the collector's edition of Pearlbrook, of course, mind you. And I went to the store and bought a couple other games that I already did some unboxing videos on. But they had this game there. It was completely unexpected, and it didn't seem like they were going to come out with a collector's edition of bellfaire anytime soon. Anyways, so I went ahead and got this game since I was not liable to find it in a store again anytime soon. And as you can see, it's a very beautiful looking box. They all are. I have to say that out of all the games I've been getting released recently, Everdell is my most favorite. It is my most favorite game. I actually like this game more than Dominion. And this is just a beautiful, awesome game. It's my most favorite game. And some friends of mine have played it with me, and they both loved it a lot. So, I definitely plan to get Pearlbrook in the near future, since I've got the other two anyways, Spirecrest and now bellfaire. So let's see what's in this box. This big, well, not big, but this beautiful box. We have the catalog again for Starling Games. And here's our rule book to play with bellfaire. So here we have the contents of what's in this game. And so the one thing about this expansion is it removes the tree from the game. And instead you have this additional bellfaire board that goes at the top of the original board. And so it replaces the tree. Now, I have mixed feelings about that, because I really love the tree. But, and it's definitely makes the game more appealing when you see the tree from a distance, you know? It makes it more attractive. So, what I'll probably end up doing is I'll probably keep the tree around, but I probably won't keep it on the board. If we have a nice big table, I'll just put the tree nearby, so it still looks like it's part of the game. And I might still put some of my workers on top of the tree, like I usually do. But still, we'll go ahead and hold on to the tree, and, you know, because one thing to note is you should never play, at least from what I understand, you should never play Spirecrest with any of the other expansions. So you'll still need the tree for Spirecrest, especially if you're not playing with bellfaire. If you're not going to play with the bellfaire expansion, then you still definitely need the tree. But you don't have to have it for this expansion if you're going to play bellfaire. Now, there's two reasons why you'd want to play with this expansion. One of the reasons is it adds powers. Each of the different workers that are in the game actually get a unique power that they only get, and only they get it, and it comes with this expansion, the powers. So that's something to note. It also adds a couple new animal workers to boot, but obviously we're going to need Pearlbrook as well, so that way we have more workers. But regardless of the case, that's really cool. And then the second reason why you'd play it is if you were wanting to play Everdell with more than 4 people. Because normally you'd only have 4 players in Everdell Max, but this expansion adds 2 more players to the game. So if you wanted to have a 6-player game or 5-player game, you would have to play with bellfaire, and you would have to avoid playing with Spirecrest, for instance. But if you were just going to play a 4-player game, then you don't necessarily need to play this expansion, or less than 4 players, for that matter. But if you want the powers, then obviously you're going to need bellfaire. But anyways, that's still really cool. So, at least that's from what I understand, that's what it's like. So, and this came in there too, and that was nice. So it kept the board from sliding around in the box, you know, which is nice. That they keep everything in such good condition. Sometimes you get a game and cards and things like that are ruined because they were ruined in transit. So here's the board that goes at the top now of the original board. So that's nice. And here's a whole bunch of new tokens and things like that. It looks like we even have a token for Rugwort if you're playing solo. We have these Azultal tokens as well. Not sure what they're for, but maybe they're for if you're playing with the Azultal worker. Maybe that's what they're for. Because like I said, each of the workers have their own power, and so this is something that could be just for the player who picks the Azultal. I'm guessing. I'm not for sure. I'd have to look that up for sure. But I'm guessing that's what it would be. And then we have some other tokens here that obviously do a variety of... It gives you a variety of points, or a certain amount of points for something, for doing a variety of different things, or having a variety of different things, or something like that. It looks like we got some other tokens that give you resources and things. And we have another board here. So that's interesting. And then we have some other board pieces here, it looks like, that you can add to the game. Oh, these, I wonder if these are player boards. I think that's, let's see, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. There's 6 of them. So I think these are actually player boards. And so you actually get to put your town, I think, on these player boards, or your resources, or something like that. So that's really cool to have a really unique player board. I think that's a player board. Then we have the workers, the new ones. And let's see here. Can I get this open or not? Alright. So we have the new workers. We have the Northern Cardinals, or the Cardinals, if you will. But they look like Northern Cardinals because they're red, right? So we have them. And then we have the Toads. So this is the second new worker, the Toad. These are Toads. And then if you had Pearlbrook already, it comes with the 2 frogs for Pearlbrook. So that way you can still play with Pearlbrook. One thing it doesn't seem to add is it doesn't add the rabbits in these colors, but I think Spirecrest has these colors available for the rabbits anyway. So I guess there was no need to do that. But they did it for the frogs, for Pearlbrook. And here's the cards. Most of them are obviously the new powers. So let's see here. Can I open this up with one hand? Yes, I can. Alright. So, here we have the new cards. These are the powers. So for this is for the player who picks the Azultals. At the beginning of the game, place 1 token. Looks like the looks like food. Looks like the regular resource tokens, resource of your choice tokens of some kind on each basic location. And whenever you visit a basic location, you also gain that, I guess, resource token from that location. So I wonder how that all works, but that's a power that you get if you're playing with the Azultal. Here's the Cardinals, and this is a power that goes with them. Increase your hand limit by 2. Anytime you get to draw any number of cards, you may draw 1 additional card from the deck. Huh. So if you only got to draw a couple of cards, with this you could get a couple more. And it also increases your hand limit by 2, which is really cool, because normally you can only have 8 cards in your hand. So, but if you're playing with the Cardinals, you can have 10 cards in your hand. If you ask me, that's a useful ability. That might make it just worth it. That might make playing with the Cardinals worth it, just for that ability. Just to have that ability. So now this game adds these powers, which make it choosing, not necessarily choosing your favorite animal, but choosing an animal that has the coolest ability, or the ability that works with your strategy, for instance. And here's the foxes, and I have a friend who absolutely loves foxes, so this is an ability he would get if he was going to play with his favorite worker. When you place a worker on a forest location, instead of activating it, you may activate any non-permanent location occupied by an opponent. So that's interesting. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but it sounds like you just place it in a normal forest location, or in a forest location, and then instead of activating that forest location, you get to activate another location that's occupied by an opponent, as long as it's a non-permanent one. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Then we have the Hedgehogs. So this was the original worker from the original game. If you did not gain a berry when you placed a worker on a basic or forest location, gain 1 berry when playing a construction. You may pay 2 berries to replace 1 resource of your choice. So that's kind of interesting. So it basically helps you get more resources, obviously. Because if you didn't gain a berry when you placed a worker at a location, you'll gain a berry. So that's cool. And then if you play a construction card, you can pay 2 berries to replace one of the resources. So if you have a lot of berries, but you don't have a lot of the other resources like twigs or resin or pebbles for that matter, but you have a lot of berries, you can pay two berries instead of one pebble, for instance, or 1 resin, for instance. So that could be useful if you have a lot of berries. And there are games when I have a ton of berries that I just don't seem to use. So that could be useful. Alright, here's my favorite, the lizards. Alright, so begin the game with the unused forest locations in a shuffled face-down deck. At the beginning of each season, draw 3, choose 1 to play in your area, placing the other 2 at the bottom of the deck. You alone may visit these forest locations. Oh, I love that ability. That is the coolest ability yet. So you get so normally when you play with the when you play Everdell, you only get to play with 3 or 4 forest locations, and then the rest, well, they're not in the game. But if you're playing with the lizards, you get to have an additional, basically a deck of the unused forest locations, and then at the beginning of each season, you get to draw 3 and choose 1 to put in your area. And then you get to you're the only one that gets that access to that location. That's really cool. Oh man, I love that a lot. That's like the best ability ever. Dude, I love that. Oh man. And then if you're playing with mice, here we go. After you visit a basic or forest location, you may gain 1 resource of your choice that you do not already have. That could be useful. Let's say you go to the one that gives you 3 twigs, and you go there. You can gain a resource that you don't already have. So you could get a pebble, for instance, or a resin. That could be very useful. That could happen a lot, too, because you use your resources quite often. So there might be a resource you don't currently have when you go to a basic or forest location. It could be very useful. That's an interesting ability, for sure. Then we have the moles. When you use a worker to gain resources from a location, you may pay up to 1 of these resources to gain a pebble. Well, that's cool. Pebbles are one of the hardest resources to get in the game. So, you can basically exchange 1 of the resources that you just got to gain a pebble. So that's pretty cool. I like that one a lot too. It might make worth playing the moles also very useful too. Otters. Okay, well, when playing a construction, you may use resin as any resource. That's interesting. So if you have a lot of resin and you're playing a construction card and you don't have a pebble, for instance, you could use resin instead to replace any resource. So if you had a lot of resin, you could essentially replace every resource and just pay resin for the whole thing. That could be interesting. Then we've got the owls. Increase your hand limit by 1. So you get to have 9 cards instead of 8. That's pretty cool. Then after you place a worker and resolve the action, you may discard 1 card from your hand or draw 1 card. Huh. Well, that's interesting. You may keep this card or give it away to an opponent. Draw 2 cards if you give it away. Oh, that's interesting. So if you decide to keep the card, you keep it for yourself, or you can give it away to draw 2 more cards. So if you didn't like the card that much, you could just give it to your opponent to get 2 extra cards. That could be cool. Or you can use this ability to discard 1 card from your hand. So that means you could discard a card and draw a card. Or you could discard a card or draw a card. So that's really cool. That could come in handy. There have been times where I'm like, I want more cards, but I have too many cards and can't get any more. So that could be useful. Platypuses. At the beginning of the game, place 5 points here. At any time on your turn, you may pay up to 1 of these points to gain a resource of your choice, 1 resource of your choice, and draw 1 card from the deck or the meadow. Well, that's interesting. So it's an interesting way of getting extra resources and cards by placing point tokens on this power. That could be interesting. And you can also draw cards from the meadow, too. So that's cool. The rats. Now, I don't have the rats because they came in the collector's edition of Everdell. So this is a power I probably won't have access to. So we'll actually just skip it because this was technically supposed to be for the solo game anyways if you're playing against Rugwort. Of course, you don't have to use the rats to play for Rugwort to play as. They just prefer you to. But we'll skip him since I don't actually have the rats and I don't plan on getting the rats either. Then we have the Squirrels. Anytime you use a worker to gain at least 1 twig, gain 1 additional twig, and then when playing a construction, you may pay 2 twigs to replace 1 resource of your choice in the cost. Well, that could be very useful. If you're getting a lot of twigs, you could use the twigs to pay for something you have a harder time getting, like pebbles, for instance. So that's a good ability. Starlings. All right, increase your hand limit by 3. Ooh, that's even better. Increase your hand limit by 3. That's wonderful. When you draw when you draw a card, you may draw from the deck or the meadow. If you are required to reveal, they must be cards from the deck. So that's interesting. Toads. When you play a green production card, you may discard 1 card to activate that green production twice. Oh, I love that. That is awesome. Oh, I love that a lot. That could be very useful. All right, sweet. Sweet ability. Turtles. I think this is the last power. Yes, turtles. Well, they were the slowest, so they came last. All right, so after you play a card and resolve its effect, you may place 1 resource of your choice here from your supply. If there is already a resource here, gain it, and an additional resource of the same type from the general supply. So after you play a card, resolve its effect, you may place 1 resource of your choice from your supply, and then if there's already a resource here, you'll gain it back, plus an additional resource of the same type from the general supply. So it's kind of interesting. It's like a patient way of getting more resources. Patience. So that's a pretty cool ability. A patient way of getting more resources. That's so awesome for turtles. And then we have, the new locations for forest locations, and we won't really go over them. But it looks like these give you points if you complete certain things. So these are actually, these are the special events, not the forest locations. So that's a special event, and that's a special event, and so is that one, and that one, which I just dropped, and looks like this one is too, and so is this one. But these are the new forest locations. So So we got 3 resin, 2 berries, pay 3 twigs, then gain 3 resources of any of your choice. So that's interesting. Activate 2 green production cards in your city. I like that one the most of all of them, of all of the forest locations. And so that's it. That's all that's in this expansion of Everdell Bellfaire. So thank you guys for watching. It was a little longer than I anticipated for an unboxing video, but mostly because I just decided to go ahead and go over pretty much all of those new abilities for all of the workers. So I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video, and I'll see you guys again soon. And leave a like if you guys thought this was an awesome game. Alright, see you around.